Okay. Okay. Hi, folks. Welcome to the 15th session of the BDCC Business Resiliency webinar series. This is, as I said, this is the 15th session. It's August 28th. We've been doing these since March 20th. Today, we're going to try to highlight some of the emerging technical assistance that's come about through CARES Act funding that has gone to a couple of different organizations. But one steady ship is Deborah Rudrio from the VTS BDC, who's been here all along and providing us with guidance. She kindly accepted my invitation to join us. And since I'm not seeing other folks here, why don't we start with you, Deborah, if you don't mind, and maybe give us any updates. I know you've got one of your documents that's going to be published. I think you said on Monday, so you're working on that. So I'd love to hear maybe some highlights and any other juicy tidbits that you might have.
Sure. So, and this should be noted that this is August 28th, 2020, and on August 28th, 2011, we were dealing with Irene.
Oh, thank you for that. I wasn't here, but yeah.
So, back when we thought when we thought we knew what a disaster was, now we really know what a disaster is.
Yeah.
And I just got off a national call with my fellow, I'm on a national committee on disaster recovery, and just got off a call with people from Louisiana and Texas and Florida and California and Iowa and Florida, and feeling very grateful to be sitting here in Vermont, I have to tell you. So, so yes, we do, you know, I'm going to say what we do, and we have done it again forever, it feels like. We offer one-on-one confidential, no-cost business advising. We were here before COVID, we'll be here during, and we'll be here after. The best way to reach us, if you know anybody, is to go on the website and hit our COVID page. There's a little form you fill out and somebody gets to you within a few hours and then helps you figure out which advisor might be best now that we're less regional, just by nature of the fact that we're doing all virtual advising. We can get you to the right person. One of the things we do and do consistently, and there's Denise.
Hi, Denise. Hi, Denise.
Hi, Denise.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're muted. I'll unmute you in a minute. Yep, thanks.
Is we do a thing called the disaster lending sheets, which now we've added /grants, and we do try to get you updated on, we read all of the federal government information. We read all the information from the state and we try to put it into one place. You can also access that on our website, but there is an update coming out, we hope on Monday. More to talk about, just to remind people that what Governor Scott's announcement was a proposal. And again, we've gone through this several times now where there's a proposal, but then it goes to the legislature, whether it's on the state or federal level, and you know, programs change. And so we will keep you updated on what's happening. In terms of the federal programs, the EIDL, of course, is still open. EIDL Advance closed, PPP closed for the moment. We'll probably reopen when Congress gets back. Certainly there is money there still, so I can't imagine that they won't reopen it unless they decide to appropriate the money and move it somewhere else. We are still saying that from the Vermont Small Business Development Center, advice is to not apply for PPP loan forgiveness, even if you can. The easy form is indeed not too strenuous, but the long form still has a lot of questions about it. Banks are actually asking people to hold off, the hope being that Congress will enact an automatic forgiveness under a certain level of loan. Again, we don't know, but the reality is you have 10 months from the point that you've used your PPP money, your coverage period ends. So no one needs panic about that. There's plenty of time for that system to be flushed out, for the kinks to be worked out, for people to And you don't start paying any money until, the forgiveness is figured out. So really, we're trying to tell people there are other things that you need to be concerned and focused on right now. And so we're trying to keep people focused on those things. So other than that, the 1301, if you're not on the list, you can I can put my email in the chat box, and you can certainly email me and ask me to be on that list to update it, because when we send it, we send you the notification that it's been updated. And when we do update it, it's now 23 pages long. We do, oh, thank you, RT.
Yeah.
We do highlight the new areas in yellow. If you've been seeing it all along, you can probably get away with just reading the yellow parts or reading the sections, because it's broken down into state now and federal, some local stuff at the end. You can just read the yellow, but if you're new to it, we really suggest you read the entire section on whatever you're interested in the entirety. And if you go to our website now, you can actually click on the thing you're interested in. It will take you right to it, so you don't have to go through pages and pages of that information.
Great. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And that, I do encourage folks to read that document, because it's just a valuable resource. Do you have them all in a binder?
I have a pile on my floor that's now about this big, because I will start, when we publish 1301 on Monday, I will start my 1401 folder. And I just keep, every time something hits my desk or someone tells me something, a sheet goes in that folder. And sometimes they're bigger than others. It depends on how many IFRs, interim final reports, the federal government decides to publish between, the last one. But yeah, and I do print them out myself, but
yeah,
they've gotten, when I did 101 in the middle of March. When I did 101, I actually could not have anticipated that it would be 20 something pages long and we'd be at 1301.
Yeah. It's amazing. Hi, Greg. How are you? Good to see you. All right, Denise, thank you so much. I'm going to unmute you, or try to unmute you. Okay, you might have to. There we go.
Myself. Yeah, I apologize for being a little late. I was
no worries
doing
at all.
Projections for next year.
Yeah, no worries. So Denise Mason is with, sorry, just going back to my notes so I don't screw things up. Southeastern Vermont Community Action. And she is the Director of Economic Development Programs there. Right. And they have just released a new program. And Denise, it'd be great if you could say a few words about the Embrace Grant Program.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, the Embrace program, we recognize that a lot of micro businesses need help in this time. I mean, they need help anyway, and especially now since COVID. So the five micro business development programs within the community action agencies put forth a proposal to the legislature, and lo and behold, they accepted it. So we have $1 million to dispense with before the end of December. Each of the community action agencies has approximately $200,000, and the grants are anywhere from $2,500 up to $5,000. And they're different than some of the ACCD. They don't have, they still have restrictions, but not quite as many for some of the other ACCD. You don't have to have I think net profit of $25,000. So that's out. So it really appeals more towards the smaller businesses that we deal with. So, one thing you do have to have a registered business before March 1st of 2020. If you don't, some people don't register their business, so then they would have to, show me their tax return with a Schedule C or an, F for farm or something from last year. They do have to, they have to have, expenditures that are approved. So they have to tell us what they want, how their business has been affected by COVID. And, we sort of work with them on the application. It's all online. There are 3 different signatures that are required, but it's a pretty fast turnaround, which is great. So we just rolled it out this week, and I've been busy.
Yeah. Oh, some echo there. How has the subscribership? Are you getting a lot of interest?
Well, total for the state, I mean, I don't know if they'll all, pass through, but total, we have $400,000 of requests already out of 1 million, and that's in the first week. So
Okay.
I think we'll probably, so I'm trying, I sent out emails to everyone. I think it's been in the paper, it's been in the press, and I know that Greg was on. I don't know if he's still on.
Yeah.
But, if he knows, certainly for his businesses, the artists that, put things in his shop, it would be great, or anybody. I mean, I've sent it out to a number of different people.
And Denise, I have added it to the 1301 that goes out on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So there's basic information and links to where you need to go.
Oh, terrific. That's great.
So that's been added.
And Denise, how is that program handling what, we all have come to learn so much about with duplication of benefits? Like, do you, like pandemic unemployment, like is that considered a duplication of benefit for your program?
No, it's not. It's, if it's from the feds, it's okay, but anything coming down from the state, through the CARES Act, there can't be duplication. I mean, we have that on the application. Have you received any CRF money? If so, I call them and say, well, what, because sometimes people don't know what they've gotten.
Right.
So as long as they don't get anything else, if for some reason in October we found that we still had a lot of money and people had applied and they had gotten some CRF, at that point we could say, well, how much did you get? And we could possibly, you could possibly submit for what you didn't get. So let's say if they got $500, they could potentially submit for something else. But
okay.
You know what? I think at that point we'll be out of money anyway.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate your joining us.
If anybody has any questions, I mean, I don't know if you have my email, but please,
oh yeah, we'll put
email me.
Casey, if you don't mind, that'd be great. We've got that ready.
Send me clients.
Yeah.
And there's, there are income requirements too. So I mean, that's all. I think I sent that to you, and Deb is going to send that out. So
yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay. There is a caller, and I think if you can hear me, the last four digits are 7269. I think you have to hit *6 to unmute. So I'm wondering if you might be one of the folks that we were going to ask to say a few words this afternoon. So caller with the 7269. Yep, you're active now.
Hi, this is Linda with Bonneville Environmental Education Center.
Okay, all right. So you're here to listen. Understood. How are you doing?
Yeah. Hanging in there. Don't have enough internet to join you on Zoom any other way, but just trying to pick up what I can listening.
Great. Thank you for joining us. While you're unmuted, do you have any questions for either Deborah or Denise that you're pondering right now?
Oh gosh, I don't have specific questions. I just have been looking for whatever opportunities Beak would qualify for, and had eagerly awaited the DCF funding, thinking that would help because we had to cancel our summer camps. But when I saw that come through, it looked like we didn't qualify because we weren't doing in person. So I'm just trying to regroup on when to request for forgiveness and how the EIDL and PPP work together and what else we might qualify for. So nothing specific, just
yeah,
just general.
You're trying to learn as much.
Linda, this is Deborah. Our advice on the PPP loan forgiveness application remains the same. Don't do it yet. Banks are actually asking people not to do it as well until we see what Congress does on the federal level in terms of maybe automatic forgiveness under a certain level. And also, even if they decide not to do that, I would like my clients to wait a bit while the kinks get worked out of the system, because it is a brand new system. And we've also requested training on those two applications. The banks are not going to assist in the application process because they have a liability issue with being able to verify. They have to verify the application without having been involved in the creation of the numbers. So it will fall to other people, accountants, us, SCORE, Women's Business Center, Denise, whoever else is involved on a technical assistance level. It's going to fall to us to try to help people through the application process. And the SBA has heard that we need it, but has not yet responded with any kind of training program. And this is being asked for around the country, not just here. So we'll see. But right now, there's no reason to go for forgiveness. You've got 10 months from the end of your coverage period to make that application. And in terms of the PPP usage and the EIDL usage, you know, we're recommending if you're still in spending mode in the PPP that you pay the allowable expenses out of the PPP money, as long as you're not disrupting that balance of at least 60% for payroll. And then, you know, parking the EIDL until that's done, unless there are expenses that you could use the EIDL for that you couldn't use the PPP for. And just tag everything really well. Make sure your QuickBooks is every single time you spend money from either one of those places, just make sure that you're tagging the payment with that this was paid with the PPP and this was paid with the EIDL. If you have a state grant, for any reason, you should be using the state grant first, because the state grant has a deadline right now for usage of 12/31, and the EIDL money, and they're used essentially, state grant and EIDL money used for exactly the same thing. They're operating expense money, no past debt, no reconciliation of debt, no asset purchases. So really just working capital. And because the state grant has a end date of the end of the year, we're encouraging people to use that first. Your EIDL money there's no window for spending the EIDL money. So.
All right, thanks, Deborah. Okay, so I can give an update on a couple of developments that I know about. So the BDCC, along with the organization Two Rivers, and I'm cutting that short. Casey, what is it? The Two Rivers Guadalupe.
Two Rivers Ottaquiche, I think.
Yeah, Planning Commission. So the two organizations have administered the Vermont Sole Proprietor Stabilization Program, and that is in round one. Some awards have been made. The program has been funded for a second round, so we're. I mean, it's probably a little premature for me. I won't go into details, but I think it's already been released. There will be a second round. Dates are still not firm, but probably mid-September-ish for opening up for pre-applications and applications. And the first round of that was focused on businesses, sole proprietors that had revenues of 25,000. That's probably going to be adjusted down slightly, but not a lot. And then the different buckets will be adjusted as well. So there's been some talk of, and again, nothing's firm, but been some talks about lowering it to maybe as low as 3,500, but also going up as high as 20. And then maybe a bucket for businesses that are new, that really, we had a number of businesses that were new, opened up their stores in January, and then, you know, COVID hits. So they've really been hit hard due to that. And then, trying to think if there's any other one. I think that's it from our end at this point, at least. I think I'm inclined to try to put some people on the spot to see if anybody has any real specific questions, since there's just a few of us here, and we've got Deborah for a couple more minutes and Denise for as long as she can tolerate. But you know, are there any questions from okay, Marty? Let's get you unmuted.
So I'm here in a slightly different capacity today, not necessarily for Greater Rocking Mary Services, but
Okay.
back in December, Greater Rocking Mary Services sold the fitness center that we have on our campus. We had owned that fitness center. It was a great fitness center. We had a great membership. We sold it in December to a sole proprietorship, and then it was going great guns, and then COVID hit, and now they're really struggling. So I'm wondering if there's any help for, if I believe they applied for and got a PPP, but I don't know if they applied for, or if they even know where to look. They're overwhelmed with just the day-to-day of how they reopened the gym, how they switched to outdoor classes, how they were doing online classes, and they're really struggling. So as a landlord, I have a vested interest in trying to keep that business viable.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things come to mind. One would be Denise's program. So I think Denise said that the business has to be at least registered up until March 1st. Is that correct? Let me make sure you're unmuted. You might have to unmute yourself, Denise, once I.
Yes, and you also have to be at 80% of Vermont median income during any 1 month during that period. So that would mean, depending upon how many in your household, would depend on that.
Okay.
Okay.
I would also.
Basically, a family-run business. They're running it as a family, husband, wife, and daughter. So.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to do an idle. They're not going to be able to do a state grant, at least as it stands right now. I think the governor's proposal is trying to relax a little bit of that as well in terms of when people started. We'll see whether the legislature goes along with that or not. From that standpoint, the PPP was probably the only thing that they could have gotten at this point. I certainly know that the BDCC and other RDCs now have some loan funds that they're, bringing to the table. But again, that would be a loan, not a grant. And I don't know where RT stands and how much money he has left. I know some of them are just opening, but yeah, from a grant standpoint, there's not a lot available to them right now.
Just touch on that from a loan perspective, we're okay. We just got another tranche of funding for our USDA micro entrepreneur loan program, so we do have funds available. But as Deborah said, those are loans.
Right.
It does come with the technical assistance grant, but I'm happy to connect with them. I'd be curious to understand their entity structure as well, because some creativity was applied to some of the sole proprietor applicants that had a difficult time meeting the revenue eligibility. While they had a few months of potentially good revenues, if they are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC or something, then it's probably worth a conversation. And Casey, would you mind putting in the cdbgcv@brattleborodevelopment.com email address that Marty, you could share with them?
Okay, great.
That would be the best way to get some answers question going into round 2. Greg, anything on your end? Any questions that you might have if you're still there? Wait. Yeah, there you go.
Occasionally customers come in and I have to disappear, but we're, still working along with it. We were fortunate to get an idle and we got a grant from the state on the other part because we had a pretty slow month or two,
Sure, I'm sure.
to say the least. So we're, grateful to be here at this point. Deborah, how detailed do we need to keep the state expenditures?
With the same level of detail, Greg, that you keep the federal ones. The state is just starting to announce, that there are going to be some kind of accounting at the end of the year to make sure that your unmet need, that you didn't get more grant and grant money than you actually needed. So I would, I'm suggesting to my clients, if they get a sizable grant from the state, to create a separate account, and when they move it in, not to create a separate account necessarily, but if you can, that's probably the best way to do it. Move the money over into your active checking account when you need it. And then make sure that I'm having people add subcategories in QuickBooks. So if you normally have a rent category, for instance, you would now have a rent category PPP, a subcategory for rent idle, and a subcategory for rent state grant, and you would literally tag it with that much specificity. At some point, what the idle program, whether they come out and do any kind of an audit. I mean, their paperwork requires a lot, but we do know they're certainly not going to be able to follow up on the 5 million plus grant, loans that they've done. But it does look like the chatter is that there will be a random audit system, much like a random IRS audit. And at that point, you don't want to not have your materials in order. For the idle, you're supposed to keep 3 years of past receipts if you have paper receipts, or at least electronic receipts. And that's supposed to travel through the life of the loan, and then you're supposed to keep it 3 years after. But we'll see what that random audit system looks like, and we certainly won't see anything in 2021. I don't think they won't be up and ready by then. Whatever it will be 2022 and beyond would be my guess. But just make sure you're tagging it again. And if the state is going to require people to, what they're saying now, to return money, any unused money or any money that a business shouldn't have gotten because their need didn't match, then I think keeping, that's another reason to keep really excellent records.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Ken, yeah, hi. Oh, let me, try to unmute your, there you go.
There you go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So a couple of questions, one based on what Deborah was saying. I'm just keeping a simple Excel doc to track my expenses. Will that suffice? I'm sure that Quicken Books is more, I guess, precise, or you can merge it with other programs, but will Excel do?
Excel will do. What I would make sure is that I also had, if, say for instance, you're paying your utility bill and your utility bill comes electronically, and you pay that utility bill with the state grant, I would create a folder, if it were me, that said, invoices paid by state grant, and I would do a copy of that invoice in that folder. And I would probably do it by month within the, 2020. I would probably have a month folder. Just so that when they come, if they ever do come, you'd be able to just, you'd be able to pull out your spreadsheet and say, these are the bills I paid, and here's the electronic documents that matches that on my computer, and here's the paper documents that match it, in my folder, if somebody still mails you a bill. So just make sure you're keeping not only that you paid it with that money, but a copy of the invoice, whether it's electronic or paper.
Great. So it helps to be meticulous, which
it
so happens I am. So we're good.
Meticulous in this one is going to be really important.
Okay, great. And my second question has to do with the parameters around vendors that I use for my pivot project. So do the vendors need to be registered somehow? Do they need to have an EIN number? Do they need to be like a real business? Or, because I just have a simple admin project that, to be honest, my college nephew down in Florida is looking for something to do.
So make sure that he sends you a bill.
Yeah.
Make sure that he sends you an invoice, and he just has to put his name on it, and that his address and his telephone number, his email address, that he bills you for a particular period of time, and you pay him for that.
Great.
The old idle program, which is different than this new sliding scale program, did require that if you possibly could use a US vendor for things, that you did do that. But I don't think we're going to see that stringent a requirement here. But, you know, clearly they want you to, you know, they'd rather have you use your nephew in, you know, in Florida than somebody from Bangladesh.
Right. Understood. Okay, great. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Deborah. Deborah, I know it's gone a little bit past the time that you...
I've got to go, you guys. So nice to see everybody.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Deborah. BDCC Zoom, do you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or concerns? I don't know who that is. Okay, that's all right. Well, Denise, I want to thank you for joining us today. If there are no other questions, I don't see why it makes sense to keep people here. I was going to turn it to Arthur from Prolingua Books, but maybe he sensed that coming and that's why he bailed. But I want to thank you for joining us. Hopefully you're still getting some value from these. Stay tuned for the next topic area. I don't know what that will be, and I usually don't until maybe about a week beforehand, and then we start to put some stuff on Facebook. Thank you, Casey. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'll put my email in the chat. I can't type.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Denise, do you have any closing comments or words that you'd like to share? You should be able to unmute. Maybe not.
No, I was just saying, I was just putting my email in too. No, just please get in touch with me if you have any questions. I mean, if you think someone may, if they're questioning whether they would be eligible for this, just have them give me a call and I'd be happy to speak with them.
Great.
You know, because we want to help as many micro businesses as possible. I mean, everyone's been hit so hard, so it's a real godsend to some. I mean, you can get a $5,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
So, yep, just please get in touch with me.
Okay.
And on that note, I think I will leave, but thanks so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great seeing you.
Okay.
Great, Ken. I want to forget your name, from Bonnievale Environmental. Thank you for joining us. And Marty as well. Thank you. Have a great afternoon. Bye now.